Well, Brooke, we are so happy to welcome you to the New Canaan Library. And as Ellen already said, the demand to be at this event was beyond anything we've ever seen. And I think it's partly because of who you are, but not only that, it's how resonant this book was for so many people. And we obviously all adore the title, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how it came about.
So I was writing a book basically about starting a company. That was what the genesis of the book was, to be in your 50s and doing something that was sort of unprecedented with regards to anything I'd ever done in my life, which was found a company. And anyway, my then younger kid said to me, "Mom, you've got to come to this cocktail party." And I was like, "Oh God, okay." And she was like, "You need to meet these parents." I'm like, "I don't need to meet these parents." She said, "No, you need to meet them." And I said, "Okay, I'll meet the parents." So we walked in, I'll be fast, and we walked in and the whole house was like white, and it was like a triplex on Park Avenue. And my husband was with me, and he asks for a glass of red wine. Of course, I like elbow him, and I'm like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? You don't ask for red wine. Clearly, they're not going to give you red wine. Everything is white." So he's like, "Oh, I'll have water." Anyway, so we go in, and I'm like trying to make conversation with people, and then this little man, that's the point that I need you to all remember, little man comes up to me. He's barefoot, by the way, which I had a problem with in his own home. And he starts like talking to me, and I'm like, "Oh, here we go. Here we go." So anyway, and I realize it's his house. So I say, "Oh, your home is beautiful, and thank you very much for inviting us. And I notice you have everything white, and then I look to the right, and there's this beautiful wine cellar of red wine." And I'm like, "Oh," I said, "this is very interesting, all your red wine." I said, "This is amazing." And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm the biggest collector on the eastern seaboard of whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then he started talking about years of wine. And he starts saying, "Oh, well, this is the year that my son was born, and this was the year that this." So I'm thinking to myself, I'm writing this book now. So I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, God, I was born in 1965. I wonder if a 1965 Barolo is like jam at this point." Because that would be a funny chapter in a book, like I'm in my jam phase. And so I just thought I'd bring that up to him, and I said, "Well, I'm 58. And he goes, "You really shouldn't have told me that." And I said, "I'm sorry?" He said, "Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, why? Did that make you older?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I mean, and I realized in that second that my getting older was offensive to him because it made him older. And I was like, "Look, you're in his house. Don't give him a hard time." And I said, "Oh, I'm giving you a hard time. Thank you so much." He said to me, he goes, "You need to look in my closet." The guy had Tourette's of something. I mean, swear to God. And I thought, oh, and I looked at him and I said, "Why, do you need some shoes?" I was like, "Oh God, you're really digging in." And I said, "No, you know what, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking with you." But I made him open up a really good bottle of red wine, by the way.
As you should
And I gave it to my husband. But I went home and I thought, that's such an interesting comment that especially women are being met with, which is you can't flirt with a 58-year-old woman, right? Because all of a sudden we're not attractive, right? We're too old to be attractive. But that just registered with me in such a way. So I went to my editor and I said, "If I had died at like 20, I could still be Brooke Shields. But because I'm 58, almost 60, am I still allowed to be Brooke Shields?" And I was like, that's such an interesting concept. Like, I'm not allowed to get old, but that's a comment on women. Like, we're not allowed to grow into our experience. We've raised kids, we've lived, so that's where the title, long story, even longer, that's where the title came from.
But it's important to hear. Well, the scientific data that you include throughout your book validated certain things that I hoped would be true about aging, but I didn't have the facts to back it up. For example, you write about how it's scientifically proven that women's happiness increases over the age of 40, which is not what society tells us it's going to be like, right?
Well, it somehow is not sexy to give that message because I don't know, it's the truth. Like it really does. There's something that happens in these eras, but the minute your ovaries don't like function the same way, society tells us we've lost our value. And then you add beauty into it, and it's crazy for people to understand.
Right.
And it's not the narrative that we're fed.
Well, there's a line that stuck with me from the book. You write, "Who knew in a career where I played a prostitute at age 11 and a mother at age 15 that valuing myself at age 59 would be my most provocative choice?" Tell us about that.
I think my first most provocative moment, and I think there's some Princetonians that I went to school with here in the audience. Yeah, there we are. Holly. I think anything that is somehow counterintuitive to what you are supposed to be is considered provocative. It's considered a rebellion. So my first rebellion was going to college. God forbid an actress or a model or whatever can actually go to college and then go to an Ivy League school. That's just offensive, and people don't know what to do with that. But the interesting thing about being this age, or being the age that you're quoting, is it's so unprecedented that people don't know what to do with that. And we're told that we need to even get quieter, even get, more behind the scenes. And to me, this is the time to step out onto whatever area or arena you want to. And it doesn't have to be angry. It doesn't have to be offensive. It doesn't have to be anything. It can just be more of what you want it to be for your life after all these years that you have given to the world and to people I think it's just so interesting that that's a provocative concept.
I completely agree. Well, one of the biggest themes in the book is the importance of self-advocacy when it comes to your career, your health, and your relationships.
And your vagina.
And your vagina. Did the empowerment of being able to voice your own needs come with age?
Say that again.
Like finally, so in the book she talks about Brooke always needed to be nice. She was trying to be nice. People had a perspective about her that they, so she would always try to overcompensate and just be the nicest, sweetest girl that could be. And I think as you got older, you started to look after your own needs, and I just wondered how you made that transition.
Unfortunately for me and for many, it comes out of a desperation, and it shouldn't come out of desperation. You can still be nice, but you can still say hey, that didn't feel right, or, I recently had a grand mal seizure. So I literally had
She casually says that.
But I really did. I was turning blue and on the floor. And I clearly hadn't gotten enough attention that day. And what was really interesting about it was I had depleted myself of all the sodium in my body, and I didn't realize it. Anyway, I was drinking a lot of water. And I got to the hospital, and 2 doctors said to me, "Have you been restricting your salt intake for dietary reasons?" And I was like, "Let me explain something to you. I'm a 59-year-old woman." I said, "I look younger, bloated. So no, I have actually not been restricting my salt intake." So it was but it was such an interesting thing to me because not 1, 2 doctors, and they were men. And I love men. I see one in the audience.
No, there's a couple. Okay. We have 2
there
or
he
3.
Is. 1, 2, 1, 3, 4. Oh my God, we're inundated with you. But I was wow, that's such an interesting thing. Would you ask a man that question? And I'm not a man-female thing. I'm not a woman hear me roar or whatever. Kind of a woman hear me more, I guess.
A little bit.
But I thought it was so interesting that was the initial response. And I thought, you know what? I need to self-advocate. I've never done it before. It's a new concept for me to be this age and to finally say excuse me, I actually know my body. You may medically know your profession more than I do, in anything medical, but I know myself and I know my body, and I need to self-advocate. And that, it came out of a need rather than some revelation.
Right. And I think in the book, there's, I thought, a very harrowing scene where another nurse, men, came in, and basically Brooke was crying. She'd had a really tough day, and he said, "Are you okay?" And she explained that what she'd been going through, and he said, "Well, you've had a really good run. Like, basically, like, you don't need to." She's not allowed to feel pain or cry. And I would have been so infuriated, and it struck me that you have been through so much in your life. I mean, you've been working since you were a baby. You had a complicated relationship with your alcoholic mother. You survived sexual assault, divorce, infertility. I mean, keep going on, and some serious health issues. Yet people assume you've lived a charmed life and almost think you're not allowed to cry or be sad. And I just wonder how you handle that.
I think we've all had versions of that.
Yeah.
I think that's the theme here, is nobody is exempt from any of those things that you've just said.
Right.
The guy that said you've had had a charmed life, basically, well, he was an asshole, but past that, he was an anesthesiologist, and he was rolling me in, and I was like, wow, how am I going to let this go? Like, if I die on the table, I need to have the last word. So I sort of explained to him, my version of like, oh, really, you think this is easy? You think this is easy? And I went, there was a litany of things that I said. And right before I went under, I did say to him, I have to say, I had to. I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I said, I just can't understand how you don't walk with a limp. And he said, what do you mean? And he's literally about to inject me to put me out. And I said, he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, it just must be so hard to walk straight with that chip on your shoulder. Literally, all the other nurses, I saw their faces and they were like, and I was like, dude, if I'm gonna die on this table, I need to have had the last word. And it just struck me as so interesting, but it also struck me as everybody needs to be heard and seen in their own way. So all these things, every one of them is just one thing. I've got amazing friends. I'm blessed to have understood self-exploration, and I've been in therapy forever. My alcoholic mother was fabulous. She kind of was badass. She was great. She raised me on her own. And then I had this fabulous relationship with my dad. Separate, completely separate. I mean, they were divorced when I was 5 months old, and neither one of them ever said anything mean or ill-spirited about the other, and that was a blessing. So I think that, I don't even remember the question. Jesus.
That's okay. I think you're good.
Was there a question?
All right, we're going to go right back to...
Okay, thank you. Go to the next point.
There's a tendency in the world to retire women at a certain age, to basically put them out to pasture. And your book is about not letting that happen. So speak a little bit about how you've done that.
I mean, out to pasture can mean what you need it to mean. Why am I being relegated to being less than just because of a certain age, right?
Yeah.
No, that could mean anything. It doesn't have to mean, oh, you need to start your own business at 50, or, oh, you need to skydive or whatever. But we've done so much by the time we're this age. We've loved, we've lost.
I know.
And we've done a lot, and we've worked really hard, and there's something to be said for that, and it's okay. And the fact that we have wrinkles, or the fact that we're whatever, okay, you know what? Fuck it. It's okay. We've got good people in our lives, and we're lucky enough to just be sitting in this room. This is a luxury, And I think that there's so much to be said for that, and nothing is perfect, and nobody has it figured out, and nobody's, I don't know, you just have to own, at least the people you love, the relationships you have, and I just don't like being relegated to being done, because I feel like I'm just beginning, and maybe I only have X amount of years, but these years are gonna matter to me, because I don't feel like I have to be the good girl anymore, and I don't feel like I have to appease anybody. I've got kids who actually want to spend time with me. Like I have a husband who sort of likes me still. It's mutual. Yeah. But like there's still laughter.
I know,
in
and you can
my
appreciate.
life. Like, you know, that's a big deal, and these are blessings. Like if you look at the world right now, and you look at where we all are, and how easy it is to complain about shit. Like, yeah, but we're pretty lucky, and it's easy to complain, but it's also really easy to be thankful.
Totally
Like,
agree.
It just is.
Totally agree. Well, along those lines, one of the things you said was one of your goals is preventing new regrets, which I loved that idea.
Okay, so yeah, I spent so much time of my life regretting, like, oh, I should have done this. I would have, if I'd only been a better actress, I could have gotten an Academy Award. If I'd only done this, I could have done this. And I had all these like stipulations for what I thought was gonna make me successful or popular or whatever. And I think I did realize early on the importance of friendships for sure, and truth and like honesty. And I just always realized, like, if I didn't tell my truth first, people were gonna try to take my truth and manipulate it, and excuse my expression, but fuck with it. Like they were gonna ruin it for me. So I think that, but regret is such a, I regret that I, said that yesterday or whatever, but there's no value in regret. Like it actually doesn't propel you forward. I think to a certain extent, if you feel like you've done something that was not helpful, okay, don't regret it and just sit there with it. Make it change the way you do something the next time. Like, I'm not going to do that again because I shouldn't have done it, but I'm not going to belabor a mistake I made and regret. Like, regret is just too heavy on my heart.
And is that something that you feel that you've gotten from aging, that kind of perspective?
I've gotten everything from aging. I think I've been aging forever. Like, I really started aging at probably 9. With age comes experience. With experience comes knowledge. With knowledge comes belief. Like, all of these things just, wow, I'm Gandhi. Wow, that sounds amazing. Didn't mean that, but I really do mean what I'm saying. Like, those are things that have just kind of, I just go a little bit further every day.
You keep learning.
Yeah, I'm a perpetual student. Like, I'm always going to keep learning forever.
Love that. Well, you have been married for 26 years, and tell us what.
It's actually 24, and my husband made me aware of that the other day because we just had our anniversary, and he's like, babe, you got to stop saying 26. I'm like, no, it's 26 years. He goes, we got married in 2001. Take 25, minus 1. Do the math.
did go to
I was like, well, I was
Princeton.
a French major. So we were together 3 years before that, so I just consider that and added
that's
3
fair.
years on it. Oh, yeah, he's still here.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about how it's gone for you.
Yeah, tell us about him.
Yes, your marriage. You've been married for 20? Are we saying 23?
Four
24. Okay,
years,
whatever
yeah.
number we're saying. You have had a happy, long marriage, and what are your secrets been for the two of you?
Long for sure.
Okay, yeah, let's just go with that. Long.
Okay. There's this relative, Listen.
It's always relative.
It's all relative, yeah. My relatives, woof. I had a starter, yeah, please. I had a starter marriage with a tennis boy. And that worked. That was like very sweet and lovely, and it ended needed to end. And this guy is like, my husband's like a good guy. He's funny. He's smart. He's such a good dad. He's like, he's not thrown by me and my, Gemini crazy and my antics and it's hard to marry somebody like me because I come with a lot. I just come with a lot. I have a lot that follows me, and I have a big work life. And he's kind of unfettered by it. And he has his own life. And he is, my husband's a comedy writer, and he writes for Will Ferrell, and he writes a lot of his movies and Melissa McCarthy's movies, and he's a very funny writer. And so he has his own life independent of mine. And I think that that's just Like, he makes me laugh. He still makes me laugh. Very cute. He's handsome. He's like a good guy. But, he's just a really good human being. And, like, I think that is, like, I just thought, oh, I want to be old with this guy. Like, I can be with, and believe me, I've wanted to punch him in the nuts many times. Believe me, it's like I kiss it before I want to. But that's the point. Like, it sucks sometimes, it's great sometimes, it's whatever, but the through line is he's a good human being. I really love him, but I like him. He's a really good dad. And I enjoy, like, just being quiet with him.
I love that when she said he heard this and he was offended, but she said that she loves being in a car with him and not having to talk. And he was insulted, but
I was like, I can do my needlepoint. Just don't talk to me. We can be in the car.
And I think that
That's
is
like
a
the
sign.
most peaceful moment of my relation. Like, it's just nice.
Well, how has both of your daughters have gone to college? One has just graduated. How did the empty nest change your relationship?
Well, I thought I was going to throw up when my first one left. I was like, I'm done. I'm gutted. This is just like, I can't handle it. And then I went and visited Rowan, my older daughter, who just graduated, and I saw her with her friends, and they had all these, like, inside jokes that I had nothing to do with, like, I had no part of it, and it, like, rocked my world, because I thought I have nothing to do with these relationships. I can't believe I'm not first and foremost in everything in your life. And then I just sat and I watched it, and I was like, oh my God, she's gonna be okay. And they love her. They love her for who she is. And I thought, oh God, I think I've done something right, So that was my first one. The second one, I couldn't wait to get out of the house. I was like, please leave. But they come back, and they come back up slightly differently. And I said to my youngest one when I went to Parents' Weekend, and went to Parents' Weekend, and I said, she got mad at me for something, because she's always mad at me. And I said, I go, calm down. I said, all I have known is what to tell you. It's telling you what to do. Tell you when to sleep, tell you when to wake up, tell you what to eat, not to eat, what to say, what not to say, what to wear, not to wear, what to do with your hair. I was like, I have told you for 18 years what to do. I said, so now I have to meet you. You need to give me a grace period. I need to be introduced to you as a person. But you need to bring me along with you, because I don't know you. And I feel left out. So can you teach me? And she was like, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, of course you didn't. You're 18. Like, how could you think of this? And it made a really interesting difference in our relationship. When we have, my kids are night and day. They're very different. But it was such an interesting thing to sort of say, like, can I meet you? Like, can I be introduced to you? And so it's been a journey, and I've got 3 more years with my younger one graduating. And they both went to the same college. So not by my choice, they just chose it. So that was lucky.
Well, I imagine it would be difficult as young girls being, difficult is the wrong word, but raised by you, that just who you are as a person and everything. So how have you taught them about beauty and self-confidence and being young women in this world?
I mean, that's been hard since, so Rowan, my 22-year-old, when she was like 2, people would come up to her and they would say, you don't look anything like your mother. And you'd be like, oh God. And they'd go, how come? Your mother was so pretty. I'm like, okay, dude, you just insulted both of us. You said was to me. All right, number 1. Number 2, you just told my daughter, because she doesn't look like this person, she therefore is not pretty. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with people? I'm sorry, excuse me. But like, I was like, wow. And so that began a conversation with Rowan, my older one. And I would say, like, you know what? Beauty is only has value if you are strong and smart and kind and good. I felt like that movie with, what's her name? And you was smart. You was, thank you. Yeah, the help. But that was what, like, I thought, my God. And so, but it did initiate a conversation. And then, of course, then my younger one is born. She looks exactly like me, evidently. And everybody would say, yeah, she's a mini you. And then that wreaked havoc on my older one. And my older one felt worse. And then, like, it was just this constant, the good part about it was it opened up a conversation. And I would say, how does that make you feel? What does that mean to you? How do you, like, and then we would just, I had to, like, address it from
Sure.
the time they were 5 and 6 and 7 and to this day. You know, to this day, I have that a conversation, and I'll say, like, I'm not a standard. I'm just your mom. And, like, I was face of a decade on Time magazine. Who decides that? Does God come down and go, oh, this is the face of a decade? No, it's arbitrary and it's ridiculous. So you just kind of have to keep talking to them and keep nurturing all of the things that are separate from the outside, quote unquote, beauty.
I would imagine it's constant. It's something that you have to do
No, it's
on a regular
all
basis.
the time.
Yeah. Well, this book opens up so many important conversations, one of which is the idea that in the consumer market, women shouldn't age. Do you think that that's changing?
I don't know if it's changing, but I will say that we need to augment it too. We need to include another demographic, right? Like right now it's you're the hot girl at the bar or you're in Depends.
Or the menopause world too. Like
Right.
menopause has become
or you're in you're coming it to the. So the thing is, there's a whole thing in the middle that is vibrant, unbelievable, beautiful, like I say seasoned, but I mean that sounds also not great, but like delicious. Like there's something about this demographic, this era of our lives. And we need to make that visible and important. And marketing is going to catch up. Because if you look at the market, if you look at the math, and you look at the white space, and you look at the demographic, and you look at by, 2034 or something like that, the women in this era of their lives, they control the purse strings. They want to spend it on their individual selves, right? So this is a demographic that is financially really capable, willing, and wanting to spend it. So marketers are going to have to pay attention to that. So it's the hot and all the, you go into Sephora or you go into whatever and all that's what it is. But if you really look at where the purse strings are, you're looking at our demographic and you're looking at how we buy the cars. We decide what's happening in the household.
Yes, we do.
Control, yes. But we control that, and we've gotten to this point, and we want to spend on ourselves. And beauty now is no longer considered frivolous or a luxury. It's a right, right? And so I think that there's something that is changing. I mean, I will say in my other professional life as an actress, the roles are starting to change. They're starting to become more interesting for women who are over 20. And so those roles are actually happening, and they're coming into the zeitgeist in a different way. Beauty is taking a little bit longer to kind of catch up. But the financial piece of it is what's going to make the beauty industry really kind of snap to it.
Well, tell us about Brooke is the CEO. She did another career change, or a career add-on, I would say, of a hair care company. Tell us about that journey, how you started it, why you did. And I would like to say it is the best dry shampoo, she doesn't like that, instant shampoo that I have ever used. It's called Commence, and it's amazing. But tell us about that.
So I started this community during COVID because I was feeling really good about myself, and I was like, oh, I feel great, and the world's gonna come on this journey with me. And of course, everybody was like, oh no, you're too old. And it was really interesting. I mean, in my industry, you expect it because I'm not the ingenue anymore, right? So nobody wants the non-ingenue actress. But in my life, I just didn't think that the world would meet me when I finally came into this like place of confidence. I just didn't think I would be discredited so quickly and passed over and like you've had a good run, you know, you've got one foot in the grave. But that was the message I was getting actually. And I was like, wow, this doesn't seem right. So a friend of mine said, why don't you start it? And I said, start what? He said, start the conversation. So I just started a conversation during COVID online, and I called it Beginning is Now, because I couldn't get the beginning, I couldn't get now, I couldn't get beginning, I couldn't get all these things. GoDaddy, like it was impossible. I literally couldn't get anything. And so Beginning is Now became the online community. And I just started a conversation with this community, and it grew so rapidly, and the numbers were so fast, so it grew so quickly. And inevitably, women were saying, what do you do for your hair? Why is your hair, how do you? And I started doing research, and I realized that there was a lot of white space within the hair sector of beauty for women over 40. And things like you don't realize your pores shrink on your scalp, and nobody talks about the skinification of scalp. Now that's what we're talking about. Like people talk about their face, they don't talk about their scalp. And I said, well, why don't we address the scalp as we do skin, and let's look at that. And so I began a hair care line of products that deal with, the vision was helping women and empowering women to live in their most confident, beautiful, courageous, fearless way, which sounds like a magnet on a refrigerator. But then the mission became, what problems do we experience in this era of our lives, physiologically and beauty-wise, that I can solve? And most products on the market are, over 80% water. Ours will never be more than 60%. Our actives are at a level that are unprecedented. Like, these are things that I go into the lab, because my Princeton friends will know. Tell them I'm not here. God damn it. It's probably my phone.
It's your phone.
I know. I'm sure it's my phone. I told you to turn it off. That's probably my... No. No. No, but like you go into the lab and you see things you go into the lab, you look at, like, they have this thing called, I'm going to stop in a second, but tensile strength. And
that's the signal for her to stop.
I know, that's my signal to shut up. But you have one strand of hair, and you pull it, and where it breaks is the measure of its elasticity, and then you put our leave-in conditioner on it, different strand, and where it breaks is like that much more. And so you look at these things in the lab, and you're like, oh my God, there are actual products that can help.
So exciting.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So
Sorry.
Okay. I want to leave time for questions, but I just want to say you did just turn 60.
I did.
So what are your hopes and dreams for the next decade? I mean, you've got a lot going on, but is there anything special that you're looking forward to?
I just didn't want to party. I didn't want to do anything like that. I just want to have a year of experiences. So that was my year of experience. I went lambing. I delivered baby lambs. Yeah, I bought it at an auction in England. And I pulled baby lambs out of their mom.
Okay, I did not expect that.
Yeah, I'm a little weird.
I was kind of thinking of something else, but okay.
I'm gonna go see the gorillas. Brenda and I are gonna do something like that. I want to do experiences. So, career-wise, my whole goal is to make Commence more successful. I mean, we're in the fundraising stage now, which is brutal, but
everyone can meet her backstage if you'd like to get involved.
Yeah, I want to do that. I start a new show in September for AMC It's a 6-episode mystery, comedic mystery. It's kind of like Matlock or Murder, She Wrote and stuff like that. So I start that in September.
Thank you so much for being with us. We are so happy you're here. We love this book.
Thanks, everyone. What a wonderful night, Brooke and Holly. We can't thank you enough.